The most ridiculous thing I've heard this offseason, plus Trey Hendrickson reunites with a familiar face and Chase Brown on the outside looking in because it's list season. That and more right now on Enter the Jungle. Hi again, everyone, and welcome into Enter the Jungle. I'm James Rapien. He's Andrew Fox Miller. Catch us every single Tuesday, all football season long on the YouTube channel, Cincinnati Bengals Talk, and also on FanDuel Sports Network. We're presented by Garage Beer. And let's dive in, Andrew, because I mentioned this. There's a narrative going on, and it's the most ridiculous. I'm going to try to not get in trouble and say anything that would bother people, but bother the sponsors at least, because quite honestly, I'm not sure and I wouldn't say this often, the people that think this, I don't care if I bother them, because Shemar Stewart is unsigned, which, by the way, a year ago at this time, Amarius Mims was unsigned, and no one was talking about it. No one cared. Obviously, this is different with Shemar. There's a lot of things that we've covered on our channel all offseason long since he was drafted about why he's unsigned. But the Bengals' first round pick is unsigned. He's one of two rookies, or first round rookies, that are unsigned as of this week. Jahdae Barron of the Broncos. And who knows, maybe Barron will sign and it'll just be Shemar. This is a Bengal show. We're talking about Shemar. But the narrative of, oh, well, he should just skip the Bengals, skip training camp, skip everything, and go into the 2026 NFL draft. There is not a dumber thing that can be said about the 2025 Cincinnati Bengals. There is nothing worse. The worst advice Shemar Stewart could get is that. So whoever thinks that, and I think it's a small portion, but there's a decent amount, and I want to use this dumb thing to talk about Shemar and expectations for him and sort of kind of reset things a bit, because I think there's a stigma around him as training camp lingers here, and I don't think there should be. But before we get to all of that, Shemar Stewart, let's just say there's a report a week or two from now that says, oh yeah, he's willing to do this. What would you say if that, well, let's be honest. There's going to be people that ask you this or have asked you this. What's your reaction? I don't know how you feel about it. We have not talked about this. I think it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Haven't really outlined why yet, but what do you think?
Well, I guess first let's take a step back, right? I mean, this all stemmed from, well, I don't know. And maybe it was some AI prompt that all of a sudden went wild on social. I don't know. But it stemmed from the fact that in the collective bargaining agreement, right, there's this sort of procedure for players who don't want to play for the team that drafted them, right? So basically you can just sit out the entire season and then re-enter the draft. So if we establish that that's a possibility, that is there's language in the collective bargaining agreement that states this. But I agree with you. It's one of the worst ideas ever. The fact that every time you go out on the road, we're putting our lives in the hands of maybe hundreds of people who think like this. Like, forget all of the takes from a Bengals fan base. Forget all of the takes from just a straight fan of the game. Look at Shemar Stewart's situation. Why would you want to do that? What do you have to gain from that? For such a minute, small thing. I'm not trying to downplay how important it is to maybe him and his camp, but this isn't like, we're not going to pay you. It's not like one of those sort of standoffs. And even if it was, where do you think he gets drafted? I know it's pure speculation. I bet it's not 17th overall. I mean, right?
After missing a season, after being at best tough when it comes to negotiating and figuring things out. No, this would be a bad look on his part. It would be an awful look on his camp's part. And it wouldn't make the Bengals look good either. This isn't a pro Bengals thing, but it would just be dumb. And here's why it would be dumb. You mentioned it, 17th overall pick. You know what that means? That means it's guaranteed money. That means there's a signing bonus in there. And even with the clause that he's bothered by, guess what? He'd still have that money. He'd have that signing bonus. It's ridiculous. I'll just be honest. It's ridiculous for a bunch of reasons. But the biggest one is this is not an unprecedented thing in the NFL. It's not unprecedented for first round picks. And the reason why this narrative or option is being floated out there is because it's the Bengals. They don't make it easy on themselves because they are difficult to negotiate with at times. And they do penny pinch at times. And they do try to take shortcuts and pretend that they're smarter than everybody else at times. Look at their current roster. Right? They would say, oh, well, we got Lucas Patrick. We're going to be fine at guard. When it's like, you probably should have gotten someone better. Probably should have gotten someone better. So I get that. I get it. But there is no realm, world, multiverse where Shemar Stewart is skipping 2025 and going into the draft next year is the right decision. There is none. It doesn't matter, and it's not going to happen, and it won't happen. And I start the show that way. But the big thing for me, and I think that this is one, I think we'll see him hopefully early in camp, hopefully at the start of camp on the field participating. Two, I don't care. I'm going to put this out there too. Shemar and the Bengals, by the way, both sides. It's on the Bengals to get the most out of Shemar as a rookie. And Shemar, you better make a defensive rookie of the year push. You better come in and hit the ground running. And so both sides better be ready to go. The Bengals better be, that coaching staff better be ready to go to get the most out of 97, and 97 when he does get out there, whenever it is. Better be ready to go because my expectations are really, really high. I'm not giving you a pass for missing all the on-the-field stuff during the offseason program. The coaching staff doesn't get a pass if he's 2 weeks late to camp from an on-field standpoint. I think he'll show up on time, but from a practice standpoint, no. Everybody has to get this right. Everybody's got to make sure that Shemar, week 1 in Cleveland, that assuming he's healthy, Shemar Stewart is active, he's playing 20-plus snaps, and he's a factor. That's the expectation. I don't care how we get there. Quite frankly, it doesn't really matter. But if that isn't the case, if we're sitting here on September 9th, September 8th, I think the first game is September 7th. But if I'm driving home coming down 71 after that Cleveland game and Shemar Stewart is inactive, Shemar Stewart doesn't have a disruption, doesn't have a few tackles, doesn't have a pressure, doesn't have a hurt, then that's a problem. And as long as he gets to that point, he doesn't have to start. Notice I didn't say that. I don't need him to start, but I need him to be a factor. I need him to matter week 1.
Yeah, this is the worst way to try to distract people. Put it this way. This is so ridiculous to me. I think if we're going to go with like weird speculation, borderline conspiracies, I would predict that the more likely thing is that all of this noise is to distract Bengals fans from the reality that the Bengals could be signing some really good free agents that are still out there right now. But instead, this is the noise we get to deal with. Brandon Scherf's, he's out there right now, as of this recording.
And I don't know if he plays this year, right?
Sure.
But to your point,
that should be the chatter.
That should be the chatter. And you know me, I would love for that to be the chatter.
Ugh.
I would also, I hate that that's the stigma around a first round pick. Like, he's not even going to play. Like, there are a lot of people, he's not even going to do anything anyway. Who cares? And there are others that, I can't believe the Bengals are doing this. And then there are others that he should go back to the draft. All these narratives. Cut it out. Go to September 7th in Cleveland. I need 97 to be on the field and mattering. As long as that happens, all this other stuff, to your point, is just noise. Up next, speaking of noise, there's been plenty of noise about Trey Hendrickson. He's around town and he's working out with a familiar face. That's next. Welcome back to Enter the Jungle. He's Andrew Fox Miller. I'm James Rapien, and it's time for a Trey update. Today's Trey update brought to you by Lakespur Marketing. From digital ad placement to broadcast buys and creative and anything and everything in between, Lakespur Marketing has you covered. The proof is in their partners. Visit lakespurmarketing.com today. And Andrew, Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati with training camp looming. Trey Hendrickson around town. I think that's a good sign regardless of contract talks, where they're at, all of those things. And no, it doesn't mean that he's negotiating. It doesn't mean that the front office is on pins and needles right now, waiting for Trey's answer on a contract point or discussion or number. But in town, working at Black Sheep Performance in Blue Ash with none other than Sam Hubbard, who looks like he's already getting ready for training camp, even though he retired in March. He retired in March. Great to see, regardless, that the H boys back together training in Blue Ash.
Yeah, I mean, what is the bigger headline here? Like, what's Sam doing? I mean, I know just staying in shape and stuff, but I mean, like, I don't know, Darren Waller just came out of retirement. I mean, I'm just saying, crazier things have happened.
Yeah, crazier things have happened. I don't want to go there, especially we led with Shemar Stewart. I could totally see people being like, oh, well, you could just, you could just go down this path. I think, one, I like that Sam's trying to still stay in shape. I would too. I love that. Two, it's good to see Trey around handling his business, and regardless of what it's for. Like a few weeks ago, he was in town and it was for a couple events and charity things. And so he was training at Black Sheep, and I don't care. I don't care if it's for other reasons. Having Trey in Cincinnati versus having him somewhere else is valuable. And if I'm him, and who knows what happens if he gets a deal done before training camp, all of those things. But yeah, hang out in Cincinnati, train here, get used to the air, the wind, the not wind, the humidity, all of those things. Because even if he isn't there on day one of training camp, a deal could get done, boom, just like that. And you might as well be here to sign it and hit the ground running. So hopefully, even if he doesn't show up for training camp day one because he wants a new contract and deserves a new contract, hopefully he's just in the area. And I know planes work and flights aren't that long and all of those things. I just think I would feel better if he's in Cincinnati while all of this is going on.
Yeah, I mean, we're heading into the middle of July and he's working out with retired Sam Hubbard, but it's interesting. The Cincinnati kid, he's out there working with him. He could be anywhere. I don't know if that means, I'm not speculating about talks and this and that to your point, but is this some sort of a intentional, like I want my presence out there? It's not like he put himself out there and started talking to media. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming this is just what he's self-motivated to do and where he wants to be, regardless of what conversations are or are not happening. But is there something to be said for that? Is it sort of almost like a hold-in gesture? Like, I'm here, I'm working.
I don't think he's going to hold in. That's the other thing. I don't think he's going to hold in. I don't think he shows up. But to your point, it's nice to see him. And he rocked the 91 jersey when he did a charity event a week or two ago. He was visiting and doing multiple public or private charity appearances. I don't want to say public like it was just open to anyone. But to see him rock the 91, I think that's a sight that Bengals fans certainly want to see all season long and probably past this season. We'll see how that goes. We'll obviously keep you updated. From a star on defense to a budding star on offense, did Chase Brown get overlooked by NFL GMs and executives? We'll discuss that coming up next. It's officially list season with NFL players getting ranked by various outlets, and a young budding superstar for the Bengals might be getting overlooked. Hi again, everyone. Welcome back to Enter the Jungle. He's Andrew Fox Miller. I'm James Rapien. And ESPN's Jeremy Fowler does this every single year, Andrew, where he talks to executives across the league, coaches, takes a poll, and ranks the top 10 at each position. And it's not a shock, I don't think, to anyone that Chase Brown wasn't in the top 10 of NFL running backs, but he didn't get any votes. And I think that's the shocking thing. No one said, oh, well, Chase Brown, a guy who had 990 yards rushing, 7 touchdowns, averaged 4.3 yards per carry, then also had another 360 yards receiving, 54 catches and 4 touchdowns, 10 combined touchdowns last year, or 11 combined touchdowns last year. So double-digit touchdowns, over 13 yards from scrimmage, that he didn't get a single vote. Is that surprising to you? Do you think Chase Brown is a top 10 back? Where do you think he's at today as we record this with training camp looming?
It is surprising to me. I feel like you're being way too nice about this, James. I'm not demanding that he be in top 10, but let's look at this list for a moment here. I mean, like, what is this? Are these running backs ranked by name recognition? Like, were these execs, coaches, and scouts, like, were they frustrated that the Madden 26 rankings hadn't been released yet? So they just had to, like, they had nothing to fill. Pull the ranks. I'm just saying that, like, look,
Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Jahmyr
I agree.
Gibbs, Bijan Robinson,
great.
Christian McCaffrey, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara. Who are you putting him ahead of? Any of them?
Are we ranking from 2024? If we're looking ahead and project, James, put it this way. I hope everyone in my fantasy football leagues goes off this list for their rankings. I hope that happens, because if we're going to go off projections, I'm not demanding that Chase Brown be in top 10, but no votes. Yeah. He should at least be at 11 or 12, at least, if we're going to go off of potential heading into 25.
You taking him over Kamara?
I'm not opposed to it.
You taking him over Mixon?
I think so.
All right, but that's the debate. James Cook had a really productive season for the Bills.
He did.
And so that's where it gets interesting. Christian McCaffrey's still Christian McCaffrey. I think he's.
And a lot of these guys have superior offensive lines. I get it.
When healthy, I take him over everyone on the planet, including Saquon, just to be clear. But the health factor is huge. That might be a take for some people, but it shouldn't be. Yeah, everyone knows how I feel about Jahmyr Gibbs. Derrick Henry's the ageist wonder. I don't know. My point is, I don't need Chase Brown to be in the top 10. But there's a real chance that he does get there this year, to your point. Like, there's a real chance we look up and he has 1,200 yards rushing and then 300 or 400 more yards receiving and the double-digit touchdowns. Like if he's the guy that the Bengals think he is, he's going to be in this class and he's going to be 1,500 plus yards from scrimmage and double-digit touchdowns and one of those guys. And so if that happens, he'll definitely be on this list next year. We'll see if it happens. But that's one of the interesting storylines when you look at this team. All right, who on offense? Everyone talks about the defense and the young guys and the promise or the offensive line. But Chase Brown was so awesome down the stretch. And if that's just a sign of what's to come this year, he will be in this conversation. He will leapfrog some of these guys. And maybe it is some of the aging guys like Mixon and Kamara. Maybe he just jumps up over some of these other guys, McCaffrey or Taylor, James Cook. Like, I could see that happening, which is kind of wild because I'm not sure I thought that about him even at his ceiling last year. And yet I look at him now and I think that there's a lot of untapped potential with Chase Brown.
Oh, and we see what happens when he does get like the bulk of the snaps that you know how to utilize him. He's going to have that potentially this entire season, which I think you kind of alluded to there. I get it. Maybe this is a reflection of their concern with run blocking, their offensive line. Maybe it's a reflection of that, but 0 votes, that's a snub. That's a pure snub. 0 votes.
It is because again, I don't think I know you don't want to disrespect Kamara, but I think I take Chase Brown over him.
I'd be fine with that. Yeah.
Running back is a tough position and you age out of it. And it's the old Bill Belichick thing. You want to be a year early than a year late. Like, it's close. It's close. I also know that Chase Brown's in an elite offense, one of these high-end offenses, and he can catch. And by the way, working out with Andre Yosevich this offseason and Charlie Jones, multiple Bengals working out in Atlanta, working on receiving. So I think he's going to catch a lot of passes as well.
Not to keep comparing this to fantasy football. I'm just saying right now, his average draft position's like in 3rd round. Let him fall. Let him fall. Because in my opinion, this is a league winner that people are just letting fall the 3rd round.
Look at this.
This
fantasy football minute brought to you by, no, I'm just kidding. Andrew Foxmiller with the fantasy update. Maybe we'll do that at some point this year. You never know. From a former 5th round pick to a former 1st round pick that has a hilarious story about getting fined by Mike Brown. You're not going to want to miss it next. Welcome back to Enter the Jungle. He's Andrew Foxmiller. I'm James Rapien, and former Bengals 1st round pick Andre Smith, who made a bunch of starts during his career, and a lot of people have overlooked him. And he was never an elite player, but was a solid player for many, many years in Cincinnati. Shared a hilarious story about his 10 seasons with the Bengals. Mike Brown and the Bengals said the team fined him $500 per pound that he was overweight. He said, quote, at that time, it would have been like $500 and something per pound, he said on the Raw Room show. It's hilarious because we saw this Hard Knocks clip of Smith showing up to camp super late because they had those negotiations back and forth. And Mike Brown said, you're going to have to get in shape now, son. And that was just an iconic line. And that's paraphrasing what he said to him. But it also puts the Shemar Stewart stuff that we led the show with in context a little bit, Andrew, because holdouts used to last into training camp all the time. And Andre Smith was one of the uglier ones that a lot of people remember.
Yeah. Like, especially as a Bengals fan, it just felt like it was just always chaos. The ceiling just seemed like limitless for what could be asked for, and it just never ended. And Andre Smith was a perfect example, especially because we had that insight because of Hard Knocks. That just goes to show, though, I wish that conversation had been documented. That would be maybe among the top all-time anything, just trauma. It's seeing those types of conversations, especially if they're delivered by Mike Brown. I want to hear him saying it. Oh, it would be so good. 500 per pound.
We're going to have to fine you. Yeah, I'm not going to Try to impersonate him, but yes, you could totally hear it if you've heard Mike Brown chat. Speaking of hearing, you can listen to us wherever you get your podcast. Also, check us out every single week on the YouTube channel, Cincinnati Bengals Talk, and weekly on FanDuel Sports Network. For Andrew Fox Miller,